Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new sound advice where today we're going to be talking about we're going to take you back into time. Justin actually has his hoverboard with him.
There you go.
Yeah,
You do
from back then.
realize that we're so far into the future that we're now past the point where Marty McFly went into the future initially.
I know I'm missing all those Jaws movies, like the
Yeah, I know.
75
Where's
million
my
Jaws.
flying car?
By the way, before we get started, I need to say thank you to Base That Hurts for the very first super chat, guys. That is awesome. We have a super chat. This is our first time ever where we started the show with a super chat, so we really appreciate that. I'm glad you guys are excited about this because we are very excited about this topic. What are we talking about?
We're talking about, I forget the title you gave it, but the title I've given my show notes are defunct technologies in car and home and audio and related stuff. So we're talking about stuff. I don't know. Gosh, we should have reached out to Derek Williston and invited him on and had a talk
We
about
should
old
have.
school technology because he probably knows. He's done a better job of documenting the history. I just kind of randomly thought about things that remember seeing back in the day that just aren't around anymore, and that's what my list is. So.
That actually would have been a really good idea. I wish we would have thought of that because sooner, at least, because that would have been a good idea. So we're going to talk about technology. Some of the stuff has left us, and one of the questions we want to ask is, hey, should this technology have left us, or, in some cases, even, is the way that we are going with technology necessarily good? Are there some times where maybe this older technology was actually better than what we have now? So
That's a good question. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. There are things that have changed
right,
for the
yeah,
better, and there are things that have changed for the worse. One thing that I don't like, and we'll talk more about this later, is I feel like we're moving to a world where you no longer own any of the media. And
yes,
I never bought a lot of. I never kept a big music collection. I didn't buy a lot of books and
like
tapes and
CDs
CDs
and
and
stuff. Yeah.
stuff. I did join one of those clubs. I guess this is defunct. Remember the club where you can get like 11 CDs for $1, and then they would put you in the.
Yes.
If you didn't send the card back every month saying you didn't want the next one, they charge you $80 for a CD one month, and you're like, oh crap, that's how they get you, right? They wait for you to forget to return the card.
Yeah. Actually, let's start there because one of the technologies that I have that I feel like we have lost is physical media. And let's get one thing straight: Blu-rays and 4K ultra high def DVDs, Blu-rays, whatever you want to call them, they still exist, but they're getting harder and harder to find. Like if we talk about, say, for example, going to Walmart, they might have maybe 30 different choices now to pick from. It's usually like the newer stuff or something like that. Um, and the video and audio quality on physical media is significantly better than digital. I don't care what we're talking about. The bit rate cannot keep up on your digital internet. And I think you said it best when you said you don't even necessarily own it, right?
Right, right. I mean, I had uploaded a bunch of music that I had acquired over the years and uploaded it so that I could use the service that Google used once upon a time. Then Google rebranded it to YouTube Music, and now when I play the music that I own and I uploaded, they'll put ads in between the songs I own.
Really?
And yeah. And so basically, YouTube Music basically consumed all of my purchased video collection that I kind of shared with them. It's like, where'd my music go? They basically, it wasn't a lot. It wasn't stuff that I spent a lot of money on, if you understand what I mean.
Sure.
Um, we can talk about that at some point and talk about how we
Yeah.
moved from a world where you didn't have to purchase music to a world where now you can't purchase it. You just rent it from Amazon
Pandora
or
or yeah,
exactly.
whoever.
Right. That's a conversation as well. In addition to what you got, what is this?
So here, because we're talking about like not owning our physical media anymore, a lot of people, this is what I use now. It's called an Nvidia Shield. Okay, so basically it's like a Roku or something else. You can see I bought two of these. I have two of these. I need to buy probably a third one at some point in time. But what this does is made by Nvidia. You can actually stream any of your games to it and things of that nature. But you can use this as a device, hook up a hard drive to it, or you can network a hard drive. I actually network it from my computer, and you can put all of your physical movies that you own onto your hard drive. All your physical music, like CDs, put it on your hard drive, and then this will allow you to play it. There's a service called Plex, which I did
Yeah,
not pull up.
yeah.
I'll pull it up right now. Yeah. And so
I've heard of
Plex
Plex.
TV allows you to come in here, and I'll go ahead and just show you mine because it's no big deal. And you can come watch any of your movies, Blu-ray, 4K, DVD, whatever you own, and you can watch it anywhere in the world as long as your computer's on. So you can watch it, on your phone. You can watch any. This is where I wish more people would go to. Like, you buy your Blu-ray or DVD, and then you put it on your hard drive, and you're good to go. The video quality, audio quality is significantly better than if you were to rent it from Vudu or Amazon or purchase it. Like, if I'm watching,
Stream it. Yeah. Stream it from those services.
but you're streaming it in true quality of whatever quality you choose to stream it in, right? So, like, if you want to stream it in 4K quality, you're getting true 4K quality, where when you're streaming it from Vudu or Amazon, you're not getting true 4K quality. If you've never seen the difference by difference between streaming and physical media, you need to, because it's a big difference.
And that's one thing I think is an interesting point as we talk about. I mean, this could be a show about the format wars, right? It could be that. I think I've got
I didn't realize
a loose wire or something. So if you think about a CD is still like the standard for a high resolution audio. And so a Blu-ray is the standard for high definition audio video.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so you can't get much better than Blu-ray. And so the idea here is you can buy your own movies. You can basically rip them to a hard drive and then stream them from your own device to any of your own devices.
And music. So, same thing. You can do it with music as well. Like Leo says, the best way to own music is buy CDs from thrift stores, etc., then rip them to FLAC files. Absolutely. And then if you wanted to run them through another service like Plex or something else, go right ahead. And the reason why I like the Nvidia Shield is because it does uncompressed audio, where the majority of things nowadays, like when we're talking about streaming video and audio, it's because they're compressing it. So when you buy a Blu-ray, you get what we call Dolby True HD or DTS HD. They're uncompressed audio, no compression at all. But when we talk about running it through Netflix, the exact same movie, you're Dolby Digital. It's compressed, which is significant. It's a significant difference. It really is a significant difference in sound quality and video quality. So we're talking about compressing versus non-compressing, and I don't want you to compress.
And that word compress means a lot of different things. And for example, if you're doing pro audio, there are these things called gates and compressors that are basically there to keep you from feeding too hot of a signal. Because if you're pro audio on stage, there's no telling what the hell the musicians are going to do on stage. They can do any wild thing at any moment. That's what makes concerts so exciting. And so there's this thing called a compressor that when it detects a loud signal coming through, and in milliseconds, it'll clamp down on the signal. And then there's the idea of a compressor that you're talking about. And what that basically means is taking a high bit rate digital media and sampling it and then recording it at a lower bit rate. And that's what MP3 is.
Yeah. And that's what streaming any media is. And that's why, like what Leo said, hey, you need to get, you need to get CDs. V13 says, hey, well, he's talking about HDMI ARC. That's not him, but there were quite a few people. I think Mullen Audio Performance said, hey, records, 8 tracks, tapes, CDs, MP3s, and streaming, all those things you can do. And you can even now take your records and put them on your computer now, right? So one of these things that I think I wish more people would go into the aspect of owning their physical media, putting on it is more expensive though, because you have to buy hard drive space, and it's best really to put it on a RAID system, because if your hard drive should ever fail, you don't want to have to reload everything. Yeah.
You know what though? But in the middle of all this, think about how cheap hard drive space has gotten. Because on this computer I have right now, I forget how big it is. It's whatever terabytes of SSD. and it just wasn't that expensive when you consider how fast it is and how much storage they've got. So they're the social clubs. They're talking about lossy compression, right?
Yeah, yeah. You actually lose out. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And it's a thing that I don't get, because if you're buying a 4K television,
And,
right? And you want, then you just spent like $5,000 on this really nice 4K LG television, and then you're streaming everything. I'm sorry, you wasted your money. Like, you really did. Like, you.
oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's gonna still look better than other TVs, but you're not getting the full output of it.
Well, the main TV I bought in 2016. You're more of a TV guy than I am. I don't really, I don't really get much value out of a fancy television. As long as it'll play back, I'm happy. But the TV I've got, I think it's a 1080p. I think I got it in 2016. I just walked into Best Buy and I'm all like, I just need the biggest TV under, and I threw a dollar amount at, and that's what I looked for. And I streamed to it mostly with a Roku. And I know that Roku is not giving me anywhere near the resolution I could get, but the TV is not going to give me right. And as Tolak has pointed out, you're at the mercy of your ISP, which we know when we joined the stream here, because my computer seems to crap out every so often.
Well, and it's true. Your ISP is known, like, for example, Comcast is known that if they see you use a lot of data, they throttle you back, right?
Oh yeah,
So
and every now and then I get that warning pop up from Comcast telling me, well, they call themselves Xfinity now, right? Let's be a crappy company and provide crappy service, then rebrand. Every now and then they get that warning and says, hey, you're almost to your limit, and usually it happens 28th, 29th of the month. So you are at the mercy of your ISP. You can't just stream like mad unless your ISP lets you.
All right, here's what I think people should do. This is my opinion. So this is. By the way, we are going towards, and I think both Justin and I believe that we're eventually going towards where we don't own any media anymore. Like, we have to rent it. And I actually said to my friend Robbie before I got on that I think we're going towards the point where eventually a new movie comes out, someone's going to say, hey, you got to subscribe to my service to watch it. Forget, you can't buy it. You just have to subscribe to it. And we've already seen that in some ways, right? Like, Netflix does that with exclusives. Amazon does that with exclusives. So does Apple TV.
Well, if you
Disney
read the fine print on it, if you read the fine print on anything you download, even if you bought something and downloaded from Amazon, which I've done some, they claim they still own it. It is not yours. And this is, I guess, the biggest downfall of physical media. And I don't know where this is going. I don't like, I don't like the idea of not owning things. It's, I don't want a world where there's no private property. I don't want a world where you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That doesn't sound happy to me.
So I'm not familiar with Bandcamp, but Bandcamp sounds like a great idea. It's great for music because you buy the music, then you can stream it through that. But as long as you actually own it, because what we're saying a lot of times when you're purchasing digital media, you're actually just purchasing the right to view it. You're not actually purchasing the ownership of it. And there's a difference between the two, right? So one of them's like, all right, you have the right to view this until you don't. Like, for example, Vudu got bought out a few times, and a lot of people owned movies on Vudu. Well, what happens if Vudu just goes out of business and you bought a bunch of movies on Vudu? What's going to happen with those? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe you'll get to transfer. Maybe the owner of whoever says, hey, you can move them to Amazon, but maybe not too.
And what's interesting? Streaming basically is. Put that up there. Are you familiar with Louis Rossman?
I don't, but I like TVOR a lot. He has a lot of good things to say.
So if you're not familiar with Louis Rossman, you should check out his YouTube channel. He started streaming live repairs of Apple computers, and had a lot of fun with customers going to the Apple store, the Genius Bar, and them saying, "Oh wow, it's going to cost $800 to replace your $1,000 computer. You want to just buy a new one instead?" And then take it to him, and it's like, "Oh, you got this thing with a little bad solder right here. Let me fix it for you for $80." And
I do know who that is, actually. No,
yeah. He's really big in the right to repair movement because, well, if you can't repair things, his business is completely gone. And he has some good stuff. And I enjoy watching him. But
we've gotten to the point now where most things are designed for a certain lifespan. They're
Yes.
not designed as forever products anymore, right? So, and that's, and that's, I think, what we're talking about even with digital media. At what point, is that forever going to end? Like, if all of a sudden digital media goes away for whatever reason, maybe we get something better than internet, or what happens to your movie collection that you've been saving up for years?
And Brian Steele's got a comment here where he's defending streaming, and I'm going to defend streaming as well because I mostly stream. When I got to the point where I could actually afford an unlimited cell phone plan, I just switched right to streaming. I don't buy music. I flag stuff. Apple Music has this thing where it gives you the appearance that you've downloaded a song, but it really not. And so I stream. I know the quality's lower, both movies in the house, TV shows in the house, and music, but it's so much easier. And you've got this massive online library you have access to. And right. I liken it to FM radio. The reality is that streaming radio replaced FM radio.
Oh, yeah. And
when's the last time you listened to FM radio, Nick? When's the last time you listened to FM radio or
I don't ever
radio?
Listen to FM. Yeah, I don't. My wife still listens to it, but I don't ever listen to FM radio.
My wife streams a podcast on the way back and forth to work. No FM radio.
I don't do anything with commercials. I'll just say that. Like, I have a Plex account. They have some free movies and stuff. I don't watch any of their free stuff because it has a bunch of commercials in it. Forget it. I don't do commercials. And, a lot of the reasons why I don't do commercials, which might sound silly to a lot of people, is I have young kids in the house. I never know what commercial is going to come on. And
that's true.
Sometimes there's commercials on there that just aren't appropriate for them, because they think I'm watching it, and they're like, oh, this would be appropriate for Nick, but maybe not for them. So I'm just not a fan of that. Plus, man, I got to realize that my kids are like getting brainwashed with commercials.
Yeah.
They'll be like, they'll say, oh, there's a Toyota. Let's go places. And I'll be like, oh, for crying out loud. And
all right. I'm going to put FM radio in the defunct technology category. And I would like for the chat to vote. If you think FM radio is defunct, if you don't listen to FM radio, say, I don't know what, say FM radio. If you think FM radio is dead, I'm just curious what the crowd thinks.
Just say FM radio stinks. So here's the deal. You can still buy CDs and vinyl. You can purchase them. Amazon sells them. I remember it was a big deal when Best Buy stopped selling that. Everyone was like, oh my goodness. And good or bad, I don't know, but they stopped selling it. And really, almost every retailer has stopped selling physical. And when I say stop selling, it's not that they don't sell them at all. It's just that they don't sell much physical media, Blu-rays, DVDs, 4Ks, CDs, vinyl, whatever. You can find some, but it's not like what it was when we grew up, when there were like aisles for aisles and aisles and aisles. You could grab any CD you wanted, and it was there. Or
right. Back when I remember going to the record store in the mall to buy a cassette tape, Oh,
yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore.
And they would have to put if it was an explicit, they'd have to tell you, hey, this is an explicit. Don't, you have to be 18.
Yeah, the parental advisory warning. Right. Which they didn't care. They didn't care at all at the record store at the mall in my little town. So
no, neither did mine either. We walked in the mall and we could buy anything. I bought my girlfriend once one that she probably shouldn't have owned, but look, no one's defending FM, by the way. Everyone's like, I haven't, except for True Voice of Reason. He says I still listen to AM and FM specific websites, which is still listening to FM, but it's still different than what we're talking about. But yeah, I don't know. It sucks. All right. So while we're on the physical media, have you ever heard of SACDs?
SACD. No. What's an SACD?
So it stood for Super Audio CD. And they also had DVD audio, which was cool too. I actually still have a DVD audio of the Eagles. But SACD and DVD audio was basically music, and then they remixed it to surround sound.
I remember DVD audio. So SACD would have been surround sound audio.
Yeah, exactly. But it would have usually it would have a 5-channel output, which we're going to talk about in a minute, because 5-channel and 7-channel inputs on receivers is almost all the way dead as well. And outputs, and we're going to talk about that later because I think that's crazy. But, and not all dead, but you have to go up to a certain price point. But SACD was really a cool technology. I mean, you could listen to music and make it completely different than what it sounded like. You could revolutionize a sound. You could still buy SACDs from Amazon and things like that, but you have to have a player and other things, you may not have. That was a cool technology. I thought that was a nice way to take a 2-channel mix, make it 5-channel, make it something different. Same with DVD audio. I see you have something up.
I was going to ask you a question. How old is that concept?
Yeah, SACD did allow for hybrid.
That concept of taking music and instead of just because 2-channel stereo is still the standard. It's what we use in car audio as the standard. For just music playback, how old is the concept of trying to upscale it or mix it into multiple channels? And you're saying SACD and DVD audio did this. When was that? When did DVD audio come out and SACD audio come out? Is that 1990s tech? Is that 2000s?
Yeah, probably in there. I don't know exactly when it was. Hey, Sean, how's it going?
All right. I knew the Social Club, when the Social Club commented that he was an audio engineer, would know this. Because if you're an audio engineer, you would have heard of it. I first discovered this after one of my kids got into those teenage years and said, I want to get into vinyl. It's like, and then he said, I guess I need a vinyl player. It's like, a what? A vinyl player, a record player.
Apparently, True Voice of Reason actually has a quad setup.
You've got a quad setup. I'm not surprised. Wow. That's awesome.
I'm not either. That's awesome. Yeah.
So this actually came out in 1969, and it was on reel-to-reel tape. And right here, I've got a 4-channel amplifier, and you can see the 4 level controls right there for 4 different channels. So this was designed to put a nice big speaker in the corner of every room, and they had it on reel-to-reel tape, and they had it on records. The thing died by the 1977. And you had to have a special record and a special record player with a special needle. And if you used a regular needle on a quadraphonic record, you could destroy it. And I didn't know it existed until I was walking through a record store and I saw quadraphonic sound on an old album from the 70s. And I was going, what the heck's that? And I Googled it and I was completely blown away to think about 4-channel audio in 1969. It never really took off, but it was a thing. So it's actually a really old idea.
Yeah, and Leo's right. See, SACD, you actually had to have a special player and then special CD and everything else. Like, that's kind of cool because you didn't have to have anything necessarily special. It just kind of split the signal. Similar to like what Dolby processing started doing with the stereo signal. It would, like your Dolby Pro Logic, right? Like your Dolby Pro Logic would process that into 5 channels if it was only 2. And I think that's really cool. And someone asked if SACDs were DSD encoded, and they were a much higher bit rate, and there were stereo SACDs as well. But SACD was a significant improvement in sound quality that we kind of left behind. Same with the quadraphonic sound, and it's been proven that when you add more speakers, the less important the speakers are. Yeah, and it gets cooler.
It doesn't matter if it sounds better. Just add more speakers to make it cooler. That's all that matters. Lots of speakers are cool. Fewer speakers suck.
There is a truth to that. And when you start mixing it surround sound wise, right? Like, and you start getting like guitars out of here, drums out of here, or drum solo going like around your head. So, like, that's cool, man. Like, that like puts you right there in the music. You're like, oh, that's awesome. And I wish they did more of that. Like, that was such an interesting idea.
The same thing killed quadraphonic. It required special equipment. It required, not every album was released in quadraphonic. A lot of Aerosmith albums were quadraphonic. All their stuff from the 70s had a quadraphonic version. But, when you need special playback equipment and extra speakers in order to make this thing happen, it's really hard to get that out to the masses. And if you look at the technology that succeeded, it's all stuff that made it easier for not the audiophile, but the everyday listener. Yeah. Yes.
And we have sacrificed, and someone said since the 90s, and they're probably right. Like, since the 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, or whatever, we've sacrificed quality for convenience. And I truly believe that. I truly believe we go more and more towards like what's convenient. I can carry all my songs on my phone. Awesome. Now I don't even have to carry them on my phone. I can use that space for pictures, and I can stream it all from the internet and just pay for a service or whatever. And there is that convenience factor. And I'm a little concerned because eventually that convenience is not going to be, the quality should probably take precedence sometimes. So check this out. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. What you got?
Okay. So check this out. This is the cheapest receiver, $1,200. Okay. Not the cheapest receiver on the market. You can get cheaper receivers than that.
Yeah.
But this is the cheapest receiver on the market that has an RCA pre-out for five or 7 channels. Is that not crazy? It used to be every receiver would have that.
Okay, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Along the same lines.
We are going to talk about soundbars. What?
Whatever happened to the home theater PC?
Yeah, that's one that I think probably should have disappeared.
For a brief window, you could buy this thing called a home theater PC, and it didn't have an amplifier on it. It did.
I had one.
Have 5.1 output. You had one?
Yeah.
And it
I had a Dell XPS one that had like a TV tuner and everything. I could record with Windows Media Center, all that stuff. I lost you.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up something for when the next thing I show you. So go ahead and continue with tell me your story.
It's really weird. Something's going on with your internet because all of a sudden you're just like start talking really fast like Mickey Mouse. It's like
yeah, that's just how I talk. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Maybe it is.
At least it don't sound like Kermit the Frog.
So check this out. So obviously amplifiers are getting cheaper and cheaper to buy, and good amplifiers are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to buy. Meaning that if you want to output with a better amplifier, like this Marantz is a small Marantz receiver. It's not going to have the greatest amplifiers, but let's just say you wanted to switch out to a better amplifier, then you need to have these pre-outs. These RCA pre-outs will plug out of there and into your new, amplifiers like Orchard Audio or, anyone really. I mean, some people are saying, hey, I just want to buy some 3255s and pop up there. It doesn't matter who you want to do, whether it's Emotiva or PS Audio or whoever you want to use their amplifiers. You can buy any amplifiers and then plug RCA out and get better power and better distortion out of those. But you have to spend at least $1,200 now. That's the cheapest receiver on Crutchfield that has 7-channel out on it for you to use better amplifiers. And that's crazy to me because it used to be every receiver would have it on there. And then it got to the point where maybe like the $500-$600 receivers do it. But now you're all the way up to $1,200 that you have to spend first before you can even think about it.
And again, that's because the typical consumer that buys a home theater receiver doesn't want a bunch of external amplifiers. And you're exactly right. Back in the day, it was more common on the lower level stuff.
Yeah, it was. And now it's not. So Brian Steele said, who wants RCA? I want optical out with multi-channel support. So here's the deal. And he might not know this because I know he's more into car audio than home theater. Home theater, in order to get uncompressed audio, you have to use HDMI. Can't use optical. It can't carry enough signal. Now, I guess you could do a stereo optical out, I guess, if you wanted to, but most, stereo amplifiers only are going to have RCA or XLR. And there are some that will do XLR, which unbalanced. So what you would have to do is split each one of these signals into an individual RCA cable, basically. So it can still send the uncompressed signal on it. So you're going to end up running one uncompressed signal to just your right speaker, one uncompressed signal to just your left speaker, and so on and so forth. You couldn't run an optical out to do 5 or 7 channels because it would have to be compressed. It just can't accept the uncompressed audio that is accepted on the 7.1 channel receivers or whatnot. Yeah, there you go. 7 channels of tube amp power. That would be awesome. I would love to see that. And we lost Justin. Dun, dun, dun. This is the part of the show where we lose Justin. And that's really not that surprising. Oh, he's back.
I've narrowed down the internet problem. It's not my network speed coming from Comcast, unless they're throttling me. I've got a fast connection. I think it is the Wi-Fi chip inside my computer is the issue. So I'm going to next week I'm going to buy a long Ethernet cable and run it run it the full length of the house so I can have plenty of so
That's actually a good idea.
Let's see here. I think that optical audio and Toslink audio, I'm going to put those in the defunct category as well. They just never really took off.
What didn't?
Optical and Toslink. I'm going to put those in the defunct. They never took off.
I agree, and I think it was because of education. Like a lot of times when technology doesn't take off, right? It's not because it wasn't good technology. It's because we weren't educated. I had a friend who had a full 5.1 setup, all very, very expensive speakers. Okay, we're talking like thousands of dollars each speaker. So we're talking, probably the whole system cost about 10 grand. And I went over to his house in high school, and we were looking at it, and they had everything hooked up stereo RCA, even though they had all the DVD players and everything, which used Dolby Digital, which was significantly better than stereo, but they just didn't know any better. And I really go back to the sale. Whoever sold them the equipment didn't sell them the right stuff, right? Like they didn't say, oh, by the way, you need an optical cable, or you need, some of those actually had 5-channel RCA outs or whatever, but they didn't say.
And I'm
that.
not saying people don't use it. I'm just saying that most people don't.
Yeah, and most people don't realize, and that's the same thing. Like most people don't realize HDMI can do uncompressed audio on home theater. Optical can only do compressed. And RCA, assuming two wires, red and white stereo RCA, can only do stereo. So some people will say, oh, I'm just going to run my 3.5 millimeter out of my TV to my surround sound. Well, that's fine. You're only getting stereo sound. It's not good for, it's not what you're paid for all those speakers. Some people will run optical. Okay, that's fine. But you, once again, have run into the issue of you're only getting compressed audio now, unless you're streaming everything, and then in which case it doesn't really matter. And then you finally have, the people that know what they're doing, and they're like, oh, we're going to run HDMI to everything. And then they're the ones that have the best sound. You go into their place and they're like, wow, this sounds so much better than mine. Why? Well, it's just because they have it hooked up right.
Right. And HDMI kind of has replaced all of that. I mean, RCA still won't die, it seems, but everything seems to be RCAs and skip right to HDMI, nothing in between. 3D glasses.
I miss my 3D. I have like 12 pairs of 3D glasses. I actually have more than that because I have 5 for an old DLP projector that I don't have anymore that I'm keeping just in case. But what did you ever think about 3D?
I thought,
because that was actually on my list.
I always thought 3D movies in general, like go to the theater, watch a 3D movie, it was mostly just a gimmick. And a lot of 3D movies I saw just tried to do the little, let's put something in front of your face kind of thing, and just that kind of, I don't know, the gag, right, of the 3D effect. And I never was into 3D in the home. Some people, it hurts their eyes to watch 3D movies. And so if people with eye problems, they don't like watching 3D movies, make some people nauseated. And so I was never into it. I didn't own a home, 3D TV. And I was never into it, and it flopped for a reason.
It did flop for a reason. And I'm going to tell you, Brian Steele, Avatar 2 in 3D was pretty awesome. And it was. I went and saw it in 3D as well. I love 3D. Here's the deal. 3D got a bad rap for a couple reasons. I believe 2 reasons. One, the 3D you watch in the theater is not necessarily the same 3D you're going to see at home. And I'm going to get to that in a second. And 2, everyone felt like they had to have 3D. So they made, I'll give you 3 options, actually 3 things. So they made a lot of really bad 3D televisions that weren't good. Mm-hmm. And then 3, they made a lot of really bad 3D movies because they just felt like, hey, if we throw 3D on there, people will pay more, go to it, whatever.
Right.
And it didn't add anything. It'd be like me paying extra to go watch one of Adam Sandler's comedy movies in IMAX. Is it really going to bring
Right.
that much to it? No,
I mean,
not.
IMAX movies are phenomenal, but you're exactly right. Your standard rom-com kind of movie on IMAX is a complete waste.
So this is exactly, Nate's got it right. Active 3D glasses were not bad. Some of my friends, so there were two different types of 3D. There was 3D active, which used glasses that had to be charged, right, with USB.
Oh,
None of the 3D movies that you went to in the theater had 3D active. They all used passive for obvious reasons. They only take in the glasses. And if they do, you know, they're out like $1 versus out like 20, right?
right.
And then, any TV with passive 3D was almost always horrible. But when we talk about people that loved 3D, they were talking about like Panasonic Plasmas, which were active 3D glasses. People with DLP projectors that had active 3D glasses. That's when all of a sudden you get the 3D effect that's so much better and it becomes more immersive. Right. And I have a JVC projector, DILA, and me and my kids will watch a 3D movie almost every night. We'll watch a new 3D movie. We love it. But there are some movies that just aren't that good in 3D. I mean, there just are. But we watched like Jurassic World the other day in 3D. It was awesome. I just bought Big Hero 6 in 3D. I haven't watched that yet, but that looks good. Jack and the Giant Slayer in 3D. That was good.
Okay.
How to Train Your Dragon in 3D. So I think 3D got a bad rap because of that. Now, I have a feeling, and I don't know this, but I have a feeling 3D might be coming back.
In the form of the virtual reality goggles, do you think?
No, I mean, I think that too.
No, just like
I do think,
just like it's going to come back. People are going to start buying 3D 8K TVs.
Well, I think we learned a lot. Like what Jacob said. Look, there's so much bad 3D content. It sure was. Oh, all right. The Car Truth, thank you so much for the super chat. Square subs, kicker for the win. For real though, just keep doing what you're doing. And you're right. Well, we might actually talk about that. But yeah, there was all that stuff, and now what seems to be like people are going for their televisions are now those laser projectors. And those laser projectors can oftentimes do 3D. So I wonder, you know, if more 3D content, especially after Avatar 2 came out, and then there's going to be another Avatar coming out in 3D, it makes me wonder if there'll be some leeway. And now that 8K televisions are coming out, they should be able to do 3D and 4K. So, you know, assuming they can fit it on a disc or whatever. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a very good question. All right, Justin lost. Oh, so Dan Russell said, hey, with powered speakers and DSP, how long until we talk about the good old days with passive speakers and 2-channel amps? Good question. Might be sooner than we think.
All right, I'm back.
All right, what is this? Music K.
And you put my screen up.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to jump away from the 3D conversation. And if 3D comes back, maybe I'll get a 3D TV. We'll see.
But
don't
go
back
buy
to
a
the
cheap
format
one.
wars
Don't go over to Best Buy and say, this is how much money I have. Give me a 3D TV.
Right. You know, just buy a good one. I got you. And I think you're right, because for a while, the every TV had 3D on it. And it's
they were terrible.
It's a useless feature if you don't want it, right? And if it's poorly implemented, it's going to be a flop. Back to like the discussion of the format wars, right? There's this time period when the whole world was switching over to MP3s, and everyone was downloading MP3s from various sources, and people were amassing these big digital collections. I guess what they were actually doing was ripping their CDs to MP3s is what they were doing, right? And so you see this push for high capacity storage inside of the car. And one of the items was this right here, the Kenwood. They called it the music keg. And it was basically this, it was a hard drive, for the lack of a better word. And in fact, Alpine had one that had the same capacity that was InDash. So this is basically, instead of a CD changer in the trunk, you put this in the trunk, and it held, I want to say 10 gigabytes, right? I mean, what even is a gigabyte anymore, right?
Yeah.
Everyone in the chat's talking about Napster and LimeWire. If you're
Oh
on
my
Napster
gosh.
and
Yeah.
LimeWire, you know what you are? You are young.
Yeah. Young
You are
at
young.
heart.
You were a
Heart.
child if you were on that. When when I was in my early 20s, I had a roommate who was a computer science major, and he was downloads with IRC chat. He would log into an IRC chat room, type a little bit of code, and it would download a full album.
Wow.
And so even before everyone's all like, "Oh, Napster," it's like Napster's, again, Napster's for the kids, right? The old school guys were downloading it in IRC chats.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I like that. But you're right. I mean, all that stuff was downloaded music. And then, of course, they cracked down on that. And now I mean, it wasn't really any different than like when you first grew up and you had a tape player in your car and you'd wait for your favorite song to come on. You'd start recording it, right? You'd be like, oh,
on FM radio and record it with the DJ chatter and all the other crap, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when Apple started selling songs for 99 cents each, at that point, people could just buy an individual song instead of buying whole albums at the store. And really the true voice of reason is with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what killed the idea of downloading a bunch of stuff onto a cheap MP3 player and moving to other stuff, right? First rule about Usenet/IRC. I don't know what the first rule is. So
now someone had said something about sound bars. I want to talk about sound bars because I think sound bars.
I don't want to talk about sound bars. Can we not talk about sound bars?
We have to talk about sound bars. It has to happen. So here's the deal. Sound bars have changed.
The super chat before you talk about sound bars. David K is more important than sound bars.
David K, thank you. Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. We would appreciate that. Thank you, David K, for the super chat. We love it. And David K actually said he only dropped that super chat if we would talk about sound bars. So you're welcome, David K. We will talk about sound bars. Now check this out. So sound bars are crazy, right? Look at these sound bars now. 11.4 powered, 11.4 powered. They're like $1,500, $1,700. And then there's cheap $200 ones. So check this out. This was expensive back in the day. I'm not gonna say it wasn't, but this had some unbelievable stuff. Now, I know everyone's going to say comb filtering and all that, but this had a really advanced DSP, and I'm not sure exactly. I think there's 41 total speakers on here, like 39 in the middle, and then these two like mid-range. So what this did, this is cool. This was a Yamaha. This is when Yamaha actually sold some pretty decent, stuff. I'm not saying that they don't anymore, but I think they've got left behind. But you can't really see this. You kind of see it. Basically what this did, and you can see it says 5 beam plus 2, so it could do like 7.1 or 5 beam 5.1. It didn't have a subwoofer with it. You had to buy the subwoofer separate. But you see all these speakers? What they would do is they would align those speakers. It would come with a calibration microphone, and it would align those speakers to time align based off of bouncing off of things in your room, like ceilings, walls, whatever, so that the sound would arrive behind you without having anything actually behind you.
Yeah, cool? I have to hear it to believe it.
No, it was actually pretty good. It was a really neat technology that, as far as I know, has been really kind of left behind. And it should be something that'd be fairly easy to implement now, especially with as many FIR and IIR filters as we have now. You'd think that it would be an easier to implement thing, but it actually was really unique and good. And the reason why I like this is because so many of the sound bars nowadays, what they do is they simulate surround sound, right? So, and that did too, obviously. I mean, it did it in a unique way. A lot of them now, they just kind of down mix it to 2-channel stereo. They're like, right. Oh, here you go. Well, I thought this was a cool design. I thought this was really groundbreaking at the time. And it just kind of went away, kind of disappeared. But I think it went away because it was so expensive. Like this at the time was a very expensive soundbar. I don't remember what the price was, but it was very expensive.
You got another super chat, man. Cameron has dropped a $20 super chat on us.
No soundboard, best Thank you, Cameron, for the $20. No soundboard, best DIY floor standing speaker kit for around 1K. Ooh, there's some good ones. What do you think? I know which one I'm going to.
The best
So,
DIY
first of all, what do you want to
around-
use them for? You're using it for music or movies or what? Because that makes a big difference, in my opinion. I'm still going to tell you, I am going to soundboard a little off one of mine because it really is one of the best kits that I've ever heard, which is the Soundstage 15. Those really are just very, very, very impressive speakers. And I don't know exactly what they cost to build anymore, but somewhere probably around there. Might be a little bit cheaper. What do you think? Oh, also,
so, yeah, Cameron says he's just doing 2-channel only music. I think he meant to type no sound bar. So he's looking for a good kit for around. I mean, any of those clones that Nick made on his channel are fantastic. And so I would look at those.
2-channel music only. I would highly recommend the Soundstage 15 for that. These things, they're so weird, Cameron. So let me, in a good way, you can set these up in either corner and point them at you, and you will truly believe. The imaging is so good that you'll truly believe that there's speakers in front of you playing as well. It's just, that design just worked out so well. If I had only one set of speakers that I could buy for that, that's what I would buy for 2-channel. And that's what I would build. DIY Sound Group also has some pretty good ones too, but for me, that's probably what I would build. What do you have any other ones that you would like to throw out there? You've built a couple.
You know, I'm still using my I'm blanking on the names. I'm still using my Tritrix kit. It's a mass loaded transmission line. It's got a really smooth sound. The stuff that Nick has made on his channel and shown these kind of like, here's how you build this $10 gazillion speaker kit for $1,000 are fantastic builds. I need to build one of those sometime. But the Tritrix is a tried and true. It's been around forever, and it does sound really good. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, the Tritrix is another really good kit. You can buy it from Parts Express. You can take 5% off by using my code. I would have said the Solstice, but Toyd. You just
Toyd.
Follow the link down.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are under $1,000, so those are actually going to be cheaper.
Like even with the knockdown kit and everything, they're well under $1,000. You can do a whole surround sound probably for under $1,000.
So, what I've said too with Audience 212 JTR, those are good too. Yeah, Audience 212s are good too. But if I had to pick just one, I would still go with the Soundstage 15 over them. I love them. I wish I never sold mine, but the Solstice are like $750 a pair, each. I mean, each.
Right.
So you're looking at like $1,500. So they're a little bit more, but they use Morel speakers, very good. I like the Soundstage 15. Yeah, there's something about with a 15-inch woofer getting sound that the guy who I built these for, and this is why people say, well, why don't you still have those? Well, I built those for a patron, and then he asked me to have it afterwards, and then he paid for them and everything. And I said sure, so I gave them to him. And the first time he listened to those, he got back to me and he left some message and I didn't quite understand it. So I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And he goes, let me sum that up for you. And he said, they are the cleanest, clearest. And I originally designed these for his karaoke. And he's like, dude, these are like my go-to for everything now. He goes, these are the cleanest sounds that I've ever heard. And then he said something to the extent of, you don't realize how loud they are until you try to talk to the person next to you. And that's just a true testament to how little distortion they have in them, right? Because most of the time when you think something's loud, it's not really the volume that you're thinking loud. It's because distortion is creeping in. And then you're like, I need to turn it down. It's hurting my ears.
All right.
This is a good... Luminol is in the house. I haven't heard it, so I can't tell you. I wish I could, but I'm sure it's good. I mean, I like Sony.
All right, I'm going to go back to car audio again. I got another defunct technology for you.
Okay.
Another defunct technology, another car audio one right here. This is.
Oops, I hit the wrong. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
This is the InDash equalizer, and they still exist. They're not dead yet. You can still buy one, but this is long discontinued from Crushville. This is a Kenwood. It is I think a 5-band, and this one was kind of cool because it was a half DIN height, but only half the size. Cool. And so it could really fit into tight spots. And so if you had like a small, what do you call those little pockets in your dash under your radio, this could fit into it real neat and easy. And these are pretty much not existent anymore. Like I said, you can still buy them. They still exist. They're not dead yet. I'm not dead yet. But who the heck even buys the InDash EQ anymore? And what I think is interesting is what killed the InDash EQ, right? Why do we don't use InDash EQs anymore? And I think one reason is because DSP. A lot of the functionality for an InDash EQ got absorbed into head units in different ways. More than just DSP. Because this one right here, you see the little sub button on it, and then right beside it, there's a subwoofer frequency and a subwoofer level. So the frequency is an adjustable crossover. So if you had
that's cool.
A 4-channel, right. If you had a 4-channel RCA output on your stereo and no sub output, you run 4 channels into this. And then this would have your 4-channel out. It's got a fader control and a subwoofer out. So now you've got a subwoofer out. And now car stereos with subwoofer outs are just common. They're normal. You can hit the sub button, turn the sub off. It had a level control, so you can go up to 10 dB of boost on your sub, frequency control on the crossover, so you can set the crossover. So if you didn't have a standalone subwoofer crossover, and back in the day, amplifiers didn't have crossovers on them as often as they do now. You look like an old Punch 45, no crossover, right? They all have them now. And so this went the way of the dodo bird when we started getting better head units. I have an Alpine head unit that's a decade old at this point, and it has Bluetooth for convenience of streaming music, and it came with an 8-band fully parametric equalizer plus the sub out. And so why would you need this when you already have the EQ in the head unit? So EQs on head units killed this even before we got the touch screens, and crossovers on head units killed this.
Yeah, well, Robert and the other thing is, and so did Brian Rollerson said his neighbor had one. So here's the deal, though. Like most head units nowadays, you can still do that. You can adjust the level and the frequency at which you cross it over inside because of the built-in DSP and things of that nature. And of course, they have built-in parametric EQs, which are much better nowadays because you can actually select the Q where you couldn't back then. Which is, for those that don't know, the Q is how narrow or wide of frequencies you're affecting. Right. So sometimes you want to affect a much wider group of frequencies, and sometimes you just want like one very, very narrow spot that you want to, boost up or down.
And it's easy to say that the DSP killed this, but that functionality that replaced this was already built into head units before DSPs became as big a deal as they are now. Really? This was dead before DSP. All right. I'm off my high horse now. What else you got?
So that was pretty much the main things that I had, but I knew you had a few more things, so I didn't want to take away from everything you had. Do you have another?
I've got a couple more. Let me see if I can find which window they're in here. All these windows. Here we go. All right. Things that have died. Here we go. And this is weird because they're not fully dead yet. This one still exists. This is the old school 2-way/3-way crossover. And this is a Clarion unit that you can buy that looks just like they had back in the 1990s. So what this basically was a 2-way crossover where you can send to the subwoofer and then another output, 4 channels of output to your dash speakers and door speakers, right? Which you would have a passive crossover on those or a coaxial. And then there was a switch. You can see right over here, it says X20. See if I can show you the switch. It says X20, so you can multiply by 20. If you didn't want to do 4 channels, you could do this as a 3-way crossover, a tweeter, a mid-range, and then a subwoofer. So you could do an active setup. And this was killed by the head unit because, again, the old single DIN head unit in my truck has that feature. So advanced head units killed this, and better crossovers on amplifiers killed it. Why in the world would anyone would buy one of these today other than nostalgia? I don't know why. They're still cool nostalgia things, but they're useless.
Well, there's a lot of really cool nostalgia things. So, for example, I got in that Burson audio amp. By the way, if you haven't got a chance to, I started another channel. I've renamed it from what I did the other day. It's now named Does It Byte? BYTE, like, gigabyte, megabyte, that type of thing. Does it bite? Question mark. And now I'm doing a bunch of tech reviews on it. And I'm going to be reviewing the Burson Audio Funk on there. And the Funk is kind of nostalgic in the essence that it's a Class AB amplifier with a Class A headphone amplifier, which you just don't see anymore. You see almost Class D everything nowadays. But it's $550 and it's a mini amp. It's not like this big amp. It doesn't have a Tortle transformer or anything. It uses an SMPS power supply. Just a lot of interesting things that it's almost like half nostalgic and half new. But I'll be reviewing that on that channel. And I think there are some older technology that I love. Like, for example, like Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64, my Dreamcast. I will always love those things. There's certain computer games that I still love playing that are like Total Annihilation. Awesome game. Probably still play it when I'm like 70 against my kids. But they've definitely been passed up, and maybe for good reasons. Like, this seems like a good reason why it probably disappeared. Yes, the Dreamcast was awesome. See, Nate Gupta gets me, man. The Dreamcast was and still is one of my favorite. I'm going to review on the channel, on the new channel. I don't have it in here. It's actually downstairs. A handheld gaming system that can actually play all my Dreamcast games on it. And so it's really cool. I'm playing all my old Dreamcast games on there because I don't want to hook up the old. I have too much hookup. Oh yeah, Supreme Commander is awesome. That's the newer version for Total Knowledge. Supreme Commander, Forged Alliances, I liked.
So I've got another defunct technology here for you. This is the old school car audio 30 band equalizer. And this is a DS18 model. And so once again, they're not dead yet. You can still buy them. I don't know why anybody would, because a digital signal processor, even a basic one like the DSP 408 from Dayton Audio, will outperform this. So what this was back in the day, it was 30
that
bands
was
of equalizer.
Awesome back in the day, though. That thing was so
audio
cool,
control made them.
Yeah.
Right. And all the car audio sound quality people ran a pair of these audio control ones, one for the right channel, one for the left channel, but completely replaced by digital signal processing. So there's no point in one of these now because DSP will do this and add time alignment and everything else. So another defunct technology.
So check this out. You probably don't know.
Yeah,
do you know what this means? Krogots?
No clue whatsoever. Inside joke that I'm not inside of.
No. It's not an inside joke. So I want to talk to you about this. So this game called Total Annihilation, which is a great game, by the way. If anyone wants, it's like a real-time strategy game where you get to build all these units and send them at the other guy and kill them. Kind of like StarCraft, but a little bit different.
Okay.
Like the same basic concept. So anyway, Krogots are these like big, bad, like all these units are like little tiny. And then the Krogots are like 10 times their size. They're like really hard to blow up and beat. And my friend invited me out to Colorado. And he had been practicing Madden because he always wanted to beat me in Madden. I hadn't played Madden in years. And we got there and he's like, I'm going to play you in Madden. I was like, okay. He plays me in Madden, and I crushed him like 75 to like 7 or something. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, and this is not me bragging. This is just, I think this is a really funny story. So then we keep playing, and then one time he gets like, we're tied at halftime, and he's like, oh, I've got you this game. I was like, okay. And then I came back and just crushed him the second. And he's like, he got so mad. He's like, forget this. I'm getting out the computers. He whips out the computers. He goes, we're playing Total Annihilation. I'd never beat him in Total Annihilation. He had always crushed me in Total Annihilation. Like, he's just was better at me. Yeah. I said, all right, fine, we got to do a metal map. So we did a metal map, and all I did was build a bunch of Krogoths and send them his way. And he's laughing as they're just destroying his whole like, there's like one after another. I had these Krogoths coming out like a line, one, and then one, and one, and one. And they're just destroying his whole base. Like, one of them will destroy his whole base. And he's starting to destroy one. And then I killed him, and he goes, And he laughed. He goes, "I've never beat that many Krogoths before." It was really cool though. I remember I had one of those.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had a Sherwood amplifier from I would have been 1994, Sursa 1994.
Yeah, I had one of those. I had one. It might not be the same one he had, where you could like slide a little plastic cover on it, and you could like adjust. Yeah, make all the adjustments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome. I'd be like, oh. By the way, I had never built Krogoths that fast before. I'd never like focused just on Krogoths, but I was like, I want to focus only on Krogoths and just, and I did. He's like, oh, it was so funny. Yeah, we should probably get going to it. It is actually that time. It is actually exactly that time.
It's exactly that time. What have you got coming up on the channel? Tell me all about it.
Well, the first thing I have coming up on the other channel is that video that I told you about. So make sure to subscribe to Does It Bite? BYTE. Got 100 and some subscribers.
Any good or does it bite?
Cool. Yeah, is it any good? Yeah, that's the whole tagline. Is it any good or does it bite? We're going to do just stuff on technology, not just audio technology. So we're going to be doing like video game stuff, headphone audio stuff. I mean, 3D printers, lasers, all kinds of like anything electronic. Basically, we'll have it on there. Yes, True Voice Reason. Thank you so much, man. So does it bite? BYTE. We're gonna have it on there. That's the whole tagline. On this channel, I have a projector video that I'm gonna. It all depends on. I got some things behind the scenes, but that's gonna try to come out. And I have a couple. I have a pair of speakers that I'm gonna test, which are pretty interesting. They actually use a glass fiber cone, which I'm a big fan of, and they use some other good technology. I think they use a ribbon tweeter actually. Yeah, and so they're two-way. They're really nice speakers. And then I have a couple amplifiers. I'm not sure which order they're going to come out in, but all those things are lined up for the channel.
Sounds like fun. I've got several cool things in the works right now. I missed my usual deadline to get a video out this last weekend, and I need to get on the ball and get some videos uploaded. But I don't have anything that I'm ready to announce at the moment because I don't want to announce something and then not be able to film it, which is oftentimes the case. We tell everybody, "Hey, I got this great video planned," and then something happens, never comes up. I do miss the Kraco brand as well, True Voice of Reason, that and the Sparkomatic booster underneath the dash of your car. So, but there you go. I'm not sure what's coming up next, but it's going to be awesome.
So Nate Gupta said deadlines are overrated, and sometimes the deadlines are out of our hands too, because sometimes sponsors want to see the content ahead of time and things of that nature, not necessarily to limit what you say, but to make sure that you said everything they wanted you to say as well.
That's why I stopped messing with Skillshare. They wanted the video 10 days in advance, and it's like I'm just not that far ahead.
No, and it's not worth it. And most of the time it's not worth to do anything sponsored in the way where they like want to look at it, because like I won't show anything where they say we need to look at it and approve what you have said, because that's not, you're not going to change what I say, because now it's become a video about what you want, not what I want, and not my true feelings. But I do understand someone saying, hey, look, I sent you these. I want to make sure you don't miss any of our special things about the product that we think you need to get across. Because if I forget to talk about something that they think is important, I think that's a good thing.
Right.
Okay. Someone should make a video on Dayton's, I want to do that. I should do that. Dayton's cheapest 21-inch PA sub. I'm running with my 2-channel setup. I'd love to see some measurements on that. We should do that sometime. I should do that sometime. I think that would be really cool. I wonder what the price of that Dayton's 21-inch PA sub is.
I'm going to try to Google it with the hopes that it won't crash my internet while I'm doing so.
I would be interested. I already have boxes built for 21, so yeah.
I don't know if it's their cheapest one, but I found a pro one for about, I'll share the screen here.
I see one for $222.
Yeah, I found one for $275. It's a 21-inch Pro subwoofer with a 4.5-inch voice coil, so that might not be a PA.
Oh yeah. No, that's it. Yep, that's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell by the surround.
Gotcha.
PS
Gotcha. Yeah. You got that accordion
Oh, yeah,
style
270.
surround.
Yeah, paper accordion style surround.
It's a big beast. What's the FS on this sucker?
Yeah, it says 22 millimeter peak to peak
27
excursion
27.6 hertz FS. Okay, I'm intrigued.
and 96 decibels sensitive. That means you don't need to give it like any power.
You know, a 27.6 hertz FS, I think that would do the job. I like it.
Yeah, I would probably just go sealed and be done with it. They did say that you could port it to 43 hertz, but everyone knows that if you're buying this, you want to hit the 20s and the 10s. Like you don't,
Right.
You're not buying this to hit the 40s. You're buying this to hit
Look
the
at
20s
the recommended vented volume. Oh, that's a big box.
You know what though? It's really not. I mean, when you think about like, there's 18 inches that are bigger than that box.
That's true.
Like
That's true.
Marty box is bigger. What
All
was
right,
my
QTS is
seal?
0.33.
Sure. Yeah, I think I'd throw it in a sealed and see what it can do. Just, it's got copper shortening rings. I mean, that's good. Yeah, I mean that's for low distortion, right? So that's a good push button.
X-Max isn't all that much, but how much X-Max do you need when you've got 21 inches of cone area? So,
well, it says 22 millimeters. Yeah,
11 is what I'm
11
getting.
millimeters. Yeah, 22
Right.
peak to peak. Right. Yeah,
Peak
11
to peak,
in and
yeah.
11 out. Right. Yeah. 11 one way, 22 both. Yeah. I might check that out sometime. I can't right now because I have too many other projects ahead of it, but that would actually be an easy one because I could literally just pop out one and I should be able to pop that in there.
right, because you got a box for a 21 inch sub already. All right, we've been chattering about stuff after we've already wrapped up. So,
Yep. We're out of here. Leave us alone. See ya.